So you want to get weapons like this. You want to get things like the Kingsblade Cornix Plus. You want to turn your weapon holographic and max its stats out. Well, I'm going to show you how. It's actually very easy, very simple, but we're going to jump into it right now. First, before we jump into it, boom! Thank you to the members. Thank you to the supporters. Thank you to the people that are supporting the Plat. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome, and gals, potentially. I don't actually know. But without further ado, let us jump into it. So basically, when you get later in the game, you can upgrade your weapons. Now, where can you do this, and how should you do it, and what weapons should you do it on? Let's start with first where you do it. So it's going to be right here on the map. Can you guys tell? All right, let's actually open the map. So in the top left here of Albion, think of Albion Online, but not that at all. So once you get to this stage of the game, which is considered, I would say, is considered late game, but if you want to bypass and like kind of challenge yourself, you can get here quite a bit earlier than you would think you could. In order to get access to here, you basically have to get either to this harbor or to this harbor, and that'll give you a boat over here to this island, because it's the only one not connected by landmass, so you can't go there directly. But if you go to Elf Boy Land and you go to the harbor here, it will give you a boat up here somewhere, and then you can start exploring. And then basically what you could do is you could start beelining up through this area right here. You know, you get the walled city of Peyton Manning, and then you're going to walk through here, do this battle, get to the Basilica town, and then you're going to come on down and you're going to end up finding the sanctuary. And once you do the battle, I don't know if that's the fastest way to get there, but that is, once you get to the sanctuary, there will be a battle here. And after you complete the battle at the sanctuary, you will unlock the blacksmith. Now, he is going to use Fevrite. Where do you get Fevrite? Is that what it's called? Let me take a look really quick. It's something very similar to that, right? It's Brrr, brrr, brrr. All right, you know what? Let's just talk to him. He'll tell me what he needs. Yes, he uses Fevrite and honors. So it's 50 honors per weapon and 1 Fevrite per weapon. So the way you get Fevrite, you'll find some just going around and exploring the map and doing quests and stuff. Once you finish the game, you can also, you could basically revert your save, your completed save, keep your items. You could buy them here for 50,000 a pop. That's pretty darn expensive, but you could buy them there. And also in the Coliseum here, let's take a look at the prize exchange for the Coliseum, right? They will have them for 1,000 for the first 5 or 10. I think it's just 5. I don't know if I bought any here. And then 2,000 after that. So there is an infinite amount of them, but you'll have to grind them if you want to get infinite amounts of them, basically. It's quite a grind. They're not easy to get after a certain point. But once you have those and you have this guy unlocked, you can start upgrading your weapons. Now, what does upgrading your weapons do? It's very, very simple because it does the same thing for every weapon. It pushes the stats to the end game max. So there's only one weapon that I know of in the game that beats this. The only weapon that gets above 25 attack is the Holy Unicorn Sword. That has 28. However, there are the swords like I showed you before, right? The one that gives you the King's Blade. This goes up to 25 attack, but because the +5 to all stats, this one actually goes up to 30. But whether you're using a fancy sword like this, right? 14 attack with 10 HP, 2 defense, that's going to boost it up to 25 attack. Or you're using a bronze sword with no secondary effects, just 8 attack, it's going to boost it up to 25 attack. That's what it's going to do for every single weapon. And then for the shields, it's going to bring it up to 8 defense, 30% guard rate. For the great shields, it's 16 defense and 40% guard rate. And then there's a few differences, like the magic staffs go up to 25 as well, but the hybrid weapons here go up to, it's 10 and 20, right? 10 physical, 20 magical. So it's a total of 30 points. So what should you upgrade? It's very, very important here. You should be upgrading things that have secondary effects that you want, right? Like there's never a situation where you actually want to use the iron or steel sword, because these are going to be identical to, let's say, the Claymore sword, right? They'll have the steel sword plus will have the same attack as the Hunter's Claymore plus. But this will also have the follow-up skills, deal more damage and more critical hit rate. This is basically a way, what you want to keep in mind, the reason why I think, even though this is a late game thing, you should keep your mind on this even earlier game, is if you find weapons that seem really good, but their physical attack is low, you will be able to boost them up to the highest level later in the game. So if you want a weapon that gives you PP, but you don't want to give up 6 attack, this is really good. My personal favorite example, the one I'm going to do right now for you guys, is actually, here's a perfect one, the Stingray, right? The Stingray has an awesome ability with crit rate, and poison immunity is actually kind of nice later in the game. There's a lot of stuff that does that, and has a really good passive skill. And if you get a kill, then you get 2 PP back, right? There's a lot going on with this weapon. So being able to bring this up, give it 11 more attack is huge, very powerful. But the one that I'm most excited about here is the Dancer's Delight, right? This is a combo weapon. Every time you attack with it, you get 1 AP if you made a crit, and then you get 30% negative crit rate. But there is an item, you could get a guaranteed crit with the Sergeant, and so this is guaranteed to crit. And there's another item that whenever you get a debuff, you get an AP back. So this is kind of like, I've done it in a few builds, but this is kind of like not an infinite loop, but it's a looping weapon where it's not infinite, but it's good. But its downside is it only has 16 physical attack. So bring that up to 25 is actually pretty huge. Like every point as you get higher really does matter. I mean, it matters more in the early game to an extent. But this is one that I've wanted to upgrade pretty much the entire playthrough, right? Once I knew that there was upgrading in the game. So that is the kind of stuff you want to be upgrading. Things that have skills you really, really want to use, right? Even the runic sword has 10 physical, 20 magic, which is kind of interesting, actually, instead of it being a 25 magic weapon. I think there's a different one, like the Phantom's Night Sword, right? This one has a... this one's just like straight up better, right? This has more magic potency, but has less magic. This has 5 more magic, but has more defense and inflicts negative PP. So, like, look for these weapons with secondary effects that you think are really cool, that you really want to use. And then, you know, don't worry about using the weaker ones that have maybe worse. Like, you probably don't need a recruit's hand axe at that point, right? The 3 HP isn't very good, but you might want the Zenorian axe. The Rose Knight axe is pretty good. So, this kind of stuff could be really good. Honestly, I even think the Dragon's Bone weapons could be good. Negative 10 in initiative is fucking awful, but there might be some times you want to manipulate your turn order in a way, and there's not good ways to lower your initiative. So that's how you do it. That's what you should use it on, and that's how it works. That's pretty much all there is to it. But again, the Fevrite is limited. It's not literally limited. It is literally infinite, I suppose. But you know what I mean, where it's difficult to get it past a certain point. Like after you get to like 10 to 15, that's going to be most of the easy ones to get. And then you're going to have to start doing stuff for it. But then, yeah, so basically you don't want to be selling your weapons, right? You want to be keeping your weapons for with the ones with really, really good effects where you care about the stats. I think this could be especially true in, honestly, it's mostly true for weapons. Yes, it is going to be true in everything, but like it's not 6 more defense is good, but I usually find like adding 10 more attack or even 13 more attack. Poison Slash is a pretty good ability. It gets better later in the game, I feel like, than it does earlier in the game. The Syrian Rapier seems like a cool ability, but fire is not as good as poison in certain situations, I guess. But yeah, that's basically it. Hopefully that makes sense. So just to quickly recap, you are going to go to Albion. You are going to fight until you can get to the Albion Sanctuary, do the fight outside of here and unlock it. Then you are going to use 50 honor and at least 1 Fevrite to upgrade each weapon. And then you're going to want to prioritize the really, really cool weapons. That's why you want to look at your lower strength weapons with really good effects, because a lot of those can come back later and suddenly be the best weapons in the game. And some of the weapons that are the best weapons in the game before you unlock this can become like, not trashed here, but like definitely backup weapons, you know, ones that aren't as good. Ones that I think are really, really, really good as well. Just again, the King's Blade is good because this starts at 15 physical attack. So you get 10 more physical attack on this, making it the highest physical attack weapon base in the game, because it actually goes up to 30 because of the +5 all stats. And that also obviously includes evasion, accuracy, physical defense, magical defense. So a fucking insane weapon. But even then, sometimes it's not going to be as good as something a little more unique with a added skill or added crit damage. 20% crit damage is huge, and 10% crit rate. This is a great weapon to use on. Also, this is going to make your sword masters way better, because now you could use like, because they use 2 swords, right? So now you could just use literally like any weapon you want just to have the 25 attack, and then you could have the coolest fucking side effects also. You can get huge amounts of crit rate and crit damage with things like this. Anyway, that's all for today, guys. Thank you so much for Platypuses for Ploutipus. I will see you on the flip flops. You have a good one. Bye.